Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning it's my pleasure to introduce.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel John Flynn. We ran like a military organization. We thought like one.
Well, some men chose not to serve their country according to the laws of the country, and maybe the laws of the country should be followed even in amnesty.
Do you believe that amnesty should be granted to these people that fled to Canada and what have you?
I myself would grant amnesty, but I also would honor the judgment of the people we have elected to decide that question.
I do. I feel pretty strongly about this question. I think we all, those of us here and those of us that were captives, we paid our nickel and took our chance. And I think it's the responsibility of everybody in this great country of ours to defend the principles that it's founded upon. And I personally cannot understand why these people would not do that. And I am not at all in favor of amnesty.
I do not want to see them prosecuted legally, but I would like to see them have to admit the fact that they were wrong, because I feel that if you bring all these people back just scot-free, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, you're setting a terrible precedent for future.
Captain Kenneth J. Frazier of Selma, Alabama. Frazier. Our ranking officer this morning, Major William J. Elander of Satellite Beach, Florida. Captain David B. Grant of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Lieutenant Rick McDowell of Columbiana, Alabama. Ladies and gentlemen, Major Elander will...
But and they gave me a meal that was better than the average meal, and sort of a propaganda push. They played music over a radio was so bad I understood no well of the last word. And that was Christmas of 71. Christmas of 72 was a great deal happier for all of us because of the B-52 bombings. And again, they tried to make a propaganda push with a little better meal, tried to get us to decorate a big room, which we refused to do. We would rather have our own private Christmas celebration in our own room.
In a small cell with virtually no clothes on and no protective, no protection at all from the mosquitoes and the heat. I was deprived of water. I was deprived of food initially. Other than that, after that first week, my treatment was, I was more or less ignored. The reason why this treatment was the way it was, I cannot answer. I do not know I've never been able to figure out the workings of the Vietnamese mind and why they do anything.
Definitely captured by a mixture of civilians and men that I believe
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Colonel Crumpler has stated, in my gratitude.
What are some of the things that the prisoners did undergo while they...
Are you referring to the rigor? However, I was captured almost immediately upon landing, and the Vietnamese peasants that captured me were very, very unfriendly in their approach or their treatment toward me and their behavior. I was received serious injuries to the head, received a broken jaw, and the beatings that followed by the people, in which I lost consciousness for several hours, apparently, and was not aware of some of the other things that happened. When I did regain consciousness, I was not given any type of medical aid, but continued to be beaten by the people, and it was several hours later that when the crowd that had captured me were about to get out of hand and were in the process of taking my life by hanging me, that I was rescued by an older gentleman with a couple of guards that came to my rescue and got me away from the crowd and locked me inside of a building where the Vietnamese could not get to me. The other shock came upon my arrival in Hanoi, where I was introduced to the rigorous torture that was to follow. I was not prepared mentally, perhaps, or physically for the methods in which they were to use in the next ensuing hours to obtain information from me.
Our initial interrogation occurred at about sundown on a cold January day. The night before, I was kept in a small cave, bound tightly to the point where my forearms swelled to the point where I was concerned about losing my arms. At dawn the next day, they began kicking and beating by villagers. At this time, I had not seen an English speaker. I had not been asked a question. They spent that entire day softening me up. At my initial interrogation that evening, when I refused to answer questions, I was simply put out to the mob, blindfolded and tied, to be kicked and beaten.
In their approach to you as an individual, when they would ask you for your opinion, they would make it very clearly that you were free to speak your opinion, to tell what your true feelings about. So they would ask you your true feelings of the war, and you would say that you supported President Johnson, and later you supported President Nixon in his conduct of the war. So the next thing you knew, you were on the floor. You were taking a terrible beating. And then they would get you up, and they would say, now, tell us once again your true feelings of the war. You are free to tell us what you want to say about the war. Again, you would give your true feelings. Again, you would wind up on the floor being beaten and tortured and made to endure a considerable pain. This can go on for weeks, and pretty soon you get the idea that perhaps your true feelings on the war should be adjusted somewhat, even though inwardly you still want to support Nixon. You're still behind the president and his conduct of the war. But openly, you're forced, more or less, to agree with what they have been telling you through the past weeks that you have listened to their propaganda. The weeks and the months, the constant harassment, the constant pressure that they're bringing on you. Everything you read, everything you hear about the conduct of the war and how it is all wrong. So these things, after hearing all these things and after being beaten into the ground, you finally crawl up back onto the step again, and perhaps reasoning within your own mind and trying to rationalize your attitude and your approach to it, you eventually agree with what they want you to agree to. And this is a method that they used against us. And it was effective, yes. And that we did have to sign statements. We did make statements, yes. But we suffered for it. We suffered a lot, and many, many hours and days and months of suffering. And for that reason, these people that brought and made us suffer in this manner, yes, I feel that they should be brought to trial.
Nothing really serious, just a lot of little things. You know, like flushing the commode, shaving, adjusting my razor. These are things that we haven't done in so long that I have to read the instructions, you know. Little things are important. Little things are important. I'm 41 years old now, so I have to look at things from a 41-year-old man's eyes. Yes, I think that I'm definitely a different man than when I left. And I think I can say without equivocation that each and every man who returns now is going to be a different man than when he left. And this is something which you and our friends and our families must become adjusted to also, because you know us as the old man. We have had many years, 7.5 years, to look deeply at myself and find out the things that are important to me and the mistakes I have made in the past, and trying to plot my course for the future. So I am a different man. In the latter years, we were able to possibly do a little more than we had before. Music became very important to me. It had been important to me as a hobby before I was shot down, you know, sitting in with the groups and all that sort of thing. But for the first time, I became interested in writing music, arranging songs, etc. But all I had was my ear. I had no real technical training to allow me to do this. So more or less, I taught myself, with the help of other men up there, to arrange music. And as you may have seen on TV from Clark a day or so ago, they had a singing group there, and some of those guys were in the old singing group that I had at one time. And music meant a lot to us, especially some of the religious songs, some of the popular songs, and particularly the patriotic songs.
Well, I occupied myself with music also. I was interested in choir, and although we never sang together, I did write some poems, etc., but I didn't bring them here because a lot of them are personal. Probably I never will.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my real pleasure this morning to introduce Colonel John Finley of Satellite Beach, Florida, Major Ken Fisher.
These people that we shared everything with, and there was such strong feeling between you men.
Make my decisions after thorough considerations.
About you, Captain.
I generally fall in
Speaking for myself, and probably most of the prisoners of war have been returned, have been surprised how easily it is to get back into the swing of things. Of course, we all have a new appreciation for life that we've gained from our experience. But I really believe that our adjustment is going to be no problem. Perhaps we've surprised many people, including psychiatrists who have talked to us.
Don't want to say anything or do anything that might
appreciate this, and I understand
jeopardize
this,
their...
yes. But such reports as fingernail pulling and certain things that some have been willing to disclose. I appreciate a comment.
doing. And so far, I have not, of course, found that, but I haven't had time to investigate. I also had a lot of Christian training as a young man growing up. I went to church and Sunday school and was very active in the church. During my some of my college years, I drifted away for a while, and then a couple of years before I was shot down, I was starting to feel some attraction again towards the church, and that was my position when I was shot down. During my period of captivity, I think that my faith was strengthened a great deal, but probably the most important thing was that my faith and my understanding or my beliefs were consolidated, and I feel that now they're a lot more concrete, more well-founded, more solid.
But I think we're adjusting very well to this.
Our adjustment, I think.
I have a question for all four of you. Do you all plan on staying in the service?
Yes.